Fionnán Mac Gabhann, beautiful piping. Thanks very much for joining us. The Irish Traditional Music Archive today here in Queally's in Miltown, Malbay. You're very welcome. Beautiful version of that tune. What exactly is it?
Yeah, that's a tune that John Kelly composed based on the very old air Síle Ní Ghadhra, and Willie Clancy used to play it. I originally heard Seán McKiernan playing it. Jimmy O'Brien has played it too. But yeah, it's a very unusual tune. It's kind of tune that Willie played different every time he played it. It encourages a kind of playing with the structure, you know. I've never played it. Sometimes Jimmy O'Brien can play with new phrases each time, you know. It's an unusual one in that respect, you know.
You've had a very interesting musical journey to where you are now, but take us back to how it started for you and your kind of inspirations, early sort of development on the uilleann pipes. What drew you towards the instrument initially?
Yeah, well, Dad would have been the first real influence there. My father's father was interested in the pipes. He was from Duhamlet in Monaghan and had heard of Willie Clark, and so an aunt of my father's actually spoke about seeing Willie Clark play at house dances in the area. So he had an interest in the pipes. Dad probably picked some of that up. He hadn't the opportunities that to really follow his passion for the instrument. But while he was in Churchtown, he was around a group of people that Mick O'Halloran helped develop their interest in music in general. Davy Spillane would have been there at the time, Ciaran O'Brien, and so they had nearly their own small group there. He very rarely got into the Pipers Club in town, or really didn't know that many pipers outside of that, you know. Then later years, Dad was learning to make reeds as he brought me into NPU, and I suppose Na Píobairí Uilleann was very really important to me. It's just as a community, but I suppose my first experience of the pipes were when Dad would be practicing late at night, and he used to play as I'm sure you did with Fiachra, Sean, but he'd be playing the bellows and the bag, and I'd be holding the chanter, and that's how I started off. It's always very drawn to the pipes, and when in the Píobairí Uilleann, then I suppose sense of place is always really important. It has always been very important to me, Maybe that was instilled in me with my parents and things like that. And the two big things in our household were the GAA and music, and in Dublin particularly, you rely on those two sources to create some sort of sense of community where it can be difficult to do so. And so I suppose I was drawn to Dublin pipers, and I don't think that was a coincidence of just the fact that those were the people that surrounded me, but I was drawn to it because it gave me a sense of place, and identity. And Seán McKeown and yourself and Macho O'Cossida, and Seán was a huge influence on me. I never had an opportunity to thank him, really, for how much. I mean, you all gave your time incredibly generously to me, but when I wanted to follow, I had this passion, and when I wanted to follow it, Seán was there for me to come out to the house whenever I wanted, gave his time so freely. We'd spend hours and hours in his house listening to music. He'd show me how to critique playing. That was the most important thing he did. I would play something for him each week. He didn't, and he would criticize it. And that really opened my mind. Then I started to look for the critiques that the older players were making, and really, directed a lot outside of the music for me. So Seán was a huge influence on me. Can't overstate that.
We've spoken, some of the people who heard earlier were talking about the importance of listening, and Sean Keane would say it about listening. But when you're talking about critique, it's really listening. It's about that active listening and being able to investigate a tune and the source and find your way through the melody and then bring your own. You also spoke about the great inspiration Seán McKeown was for you. I remember you contacting me about going out to Seán Keane, and two very, very powerful musicians,
Yeah.
traditional musicians, very unique, very... What was it about John Cain's fiddle playing that...
Both of them, again, were tied up with a sense of place for me, but also they were technical players. You know, that's what I was drawn to initially. You know, I'd say that's changed for me slightly. You know, but that was what I was drawn to. That actually is a true thread from Seán McKiernan to Seán Cain, and eventually maybe the person that became the biggest influence on me, not just in musical terms, but in terms of my life, you know, would be Seán McKiernan. And all three of those players have actually a lot in common, despite being very different musicians. Particularly Seán McKiernan would be quite different to the two lads, you know. And but there's a true thread there. I was interested in complexity in technical terms, and I think to a certain extent that these things are connected to our personality types in some sense. You know, that like I would be an intense individual. You know, I don't half do things. You know, and my family would laugh at me for that. You know, that's the type of character I am. I'm kind of all in to something. And I could hear the kind of expressiveness that I wanted to get across in their music. You know, now I moved away from Seán Cain and Seán Potts in some respects. When I came to here,
It's interesting because I know you were a student in my own class for a long time, and you know, your development was very noticeable. You know, very strong player, and you had to find your own path. As you were finding more of your own unique way of playing, it seemed to draw you back towards what interested Seán McKiernan and the music of Willie Clancy, Mike Carney, and you know, it is a very old style, very complex. And tell us a little bit, first of all, tell us a little bit about the technical aspects of that music. Because I know my own son is very interested, and he was drawn towards Joe Shannon in recent years, who in an interview said about the importance of keeping the two fingers on the top hand moving at all times.
Yeah.
And you might just give us a little example of what that means, that type of using the left hand to...
Yeah. Well...
I know it's quite technical, but in your own words, that would give us an idea of how the sound that comes from that.
Well, let me say that, you know, maybe the American stuff, Mike Carney, Joe Shannon, these players, they would have, to my ear, they'd have something, a fair bit in common with Seán McKiernan, you know. Their technique is so precise, you know. There's an articulation with it, right? Bang on. You know, it really, it's always well articulated. Seán Cain would be the same. Now, one thing, McKiernan mixes that slightly with what comes from Clancy. There's a kind of, what I would say is that the variation, huge emphasis originally for me on variation technically, right? Like the American players did, right? So they're not tonally varying to a huge extent. But Clancy, tonal variation on top of you know, finger technique.
It's a difficult thing to do on ill pipes.
Difficult thing to do, yeah. Now McKiernan mixed the two. He was doing it on a concert pitch set, you know, and the big thing for me, Sean, in that music though, that Fiachra's talking about, not just the American, but maybe Seán McKiernan through Willie Clancy, is that the old tonality, you know, that you hear in Clare music. You know, Paddy Canny and Martin Rochford would be my favourite fiddle player. You know, kind of a wild one, you would think. You know, he was a simple player, but the tonality was gorgeous. You can hear it right through Clancy's playing, right? Like the tuning of the notes. You know, things. It was a particular scale, right? And that's what I'm doing in that tune. Just like in that tune, I'm trying to vary it by dragging the rhythm. It's not dance music, you know. So you pull and drag the rhythm, right? Now that thing pulls at the heartstrings for me, you know. That's actually what I hear in Connemara singing, and only like the closest comparison to that I can see is Clare instrumental music and the fiddle playing of Pádraig O'Keeffe and Dennis Murphy, and Judy Clifford, you know. So I hear it through treading those, you know, that the variation comes in kind of rhythmically, tonally, and in the fingers, you know.
Maybe you try a couple of tunes actually again.
Yeah, I'll try something. Yeah. So this is a version of Banish Misfortune that just I put together of different versions, Clancy, Patsy, Toohey, and you can actually I have a lot of the different, like backstitching would be a big thing for Toohey, you know, and there's some of that in this. And
just before you start, show us what backstitching is.
Yeah, so backstitching is basically a triplet with a tight C sharp in yeah.
A lovely feature of...
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Particularly Patsy Toohey as well.
Yeah, definitely. But
try back
I should say that this version comes from John McFadden, mainly. You know, a cylinder recording that Francis O'Neill made. And he came from where my mother's from, Newport and Mayo.
Lovely version of Banish Misfortune, and bringing a lot of different aspects of versions of it to play, and very much your own stamp as well. Beautiful. Tell us a little bit about the set of pipes you're playing, because they are particularly wonderful.
Oh yeah, they're a beautiful instrument. Like, honour to have them, to be honest. Michael Cooney passed these on to me, and they're coin set made by Morris Coyne at some point in Thomas Street, probably. In the early 19th century, 1820s, 30s, 40s. Probably an early set of coins, to be honest, because they're very narrow bore. They're pitched between C and C sharp. And I could say, you know, this set has transformed my playing, but it's actually continuing to do so, you know. Like, the music I was playing up to a year or two ago just wasn't suited to this set. I was playing concert pitch music. Jimmy O'Brien Moran was a big influence on me in that respect, you know, because I started paying attention a bit more to what pipers often refer to as subtlety, and usually what pipers are referring to in that case is, being totally in touch with how the whole set is working together, and maybe leaving more space for the set to. I'm not sure I achieved that there now, to be honest, but like for more space for the set to express the different harmonics. Like you can play every note with 10 different fingering, on this set. Now you can't do that with modern pipes to the same extent. I've played very few flat sets that really have the capabilities of this set. As far as expressivity, it's really a unique instrument. And maybe people don't want that now. I mean, it's not a set suited to playing with other people. It's not very suited to that, But I play music largely as a solo thing, and I would struggle. I find that my playing is I'm happier with my playing when I'm playing less. When I'm playing less sessions, I can express myself better when I'm doing less of that, because to practice the kind of dragging the rhythm, etc., that I'm doing, you'd want to be an isolationist in a way, because the kind of rhythm that you're playing in a session, I find I have to practice it out of my playing then.
But it's interesting that rhythmical draw that you talked about was still evident in players like Seán Keane, and very much you talked about Paddy Canny and John Kelly and Willie Clancy in particular, who understood that, not for dancing, it's dance music, but it's an interesting quality, and it's something that is becoming evident in among a cohort of young uilleann pipers. That must bring a certain amount of pleasure to you to see young player Pádraig Keane and people who in turn are now influencing a different generation of players, bringing back a circle of life, if you like, around traditional music, which is what it is. It's a continuum. But where do you think traditional music sits currently?
It's hard to know, Sean. It's certainly strong in numbers, but I mean, there's been so much change in the tradition over the last even 100 years, But I would say that uilleann piping's in a particularly strong place, and I think that's because it's maintained some of the emphasis on solo playing. That'd be one. We obviously our community, and I won't call it. It is an organisation, but like it's our community, MPU. People like your father and all the work that people did to preserve and promote the uilleann pipes, it's come to fruition, and I think the pipes are in a particularly strong place in this. Not that my opinion necessarily means anything on that, but it just, from my perspective, the emphasis on solo playing, there is a vast array of styles among young pipers, right? That can't be said for that many other instruments, I think like I say, there's probably pipers are known as a bit, a breed of our own, I wonder, is that because we held on to some of the values that are of an older ilk, like the emphasis.
Piping went through various iterations trying to save itself, and possibly look back each time it did in the turn of the 20th century, even the 30s and 40s when it was struggling, then the emergence of Cultus and the Pipers Club, and then subsequently in Na Píobairí Uilleann, it did have a retrospective aspect to each of its stage of its development. Do you think that might have helped in terms of preserving some of that?
There's continuity.
Yeah,
it's certainly plenty of continuity there, and maybe the way the people would often characterise pipers as sort of obsessive. Maybe the instrument demands that to a certain degree, but what it produces is a sort of a real, you could call it intensity or passion for the tradition that maybe drives a sort of inquiry that beyond beyond just a general.
One question I'd like to ask you: do you think that the artistic quality of those individual musicians of the past, and particularly from the ones that we've record of, from
Yeah.
cylinder recordings onward, is also preserved, and that's something that appeals to the piper. Is that something you would concur with, or would have a view on?
Do they appeal to pipers?
The artistic quality of
Yeah.
the older music.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, certainly. And maybe how would I? Yeah, I mean, I do agree with that. There was a point I was going to make, but I think there's certainly an appreciation of the older music. Like I say, there might be kind of a customary consciousness or something like that with pipers, that, you know, there's a hewing to the past. Now that's not something restricted to pipers, but it is a particular kind of individual in society, maybe, you know. And I'm interested in imitation as the highest form of praise, you know. And that's the way I try to live my life in general. Not just piping was my introduction to shape a worldview, you know. It's one aspect of every individual, right? It's a really effective way to express ourselves, gives me hope, you know, but it's tied in with the other aspects of my faith. It's tied in with the way I've learnt, the ideals I've learnt from people like Seán McKiernan and Pádraig Fat O'Callaghan, that type of thing.
Tell us a little bit about what you're currently doing in your life in that regard. You're now living in
Carney, Carney, yeah.
Yeah, and why was that important? And what actually are you doing with yourself there?
Yeah, so I'm studying folklore. I went to America to study in a department that's quite renowned over there, but I'm not saying that to sort of lend myself some credence or anything. It's the fact that a very important scholarly tradition came out of there that really has large consequences. You know, but folklore is basically the study of vernacular expressive culture. Vernacular as in non-official and local, right? Now, when I grew up playing GAA and traditional music in Dublin, I realised that these things held some values that seemed relatively absent in society, seemed threatened. I wanted to learn why, right? And when I went to university, why were these the things that interested me? I wanted to understand the sociological processes through which tradition is created. How do we brandish something as tradition? And when we do so, we're obviously marking it as non-modern. So if it's non-modern, what's it contrasted to? And basically, I was always alienated by what I grew up with in Dublin. Traditional music was a bit of a haven, but, you know, I was alienated by certain aspects of modern society: materialism, individualism, all rising inequality. You could see these things, they were staring me in the face, you know. Traditional music was a bit of an antidote to that. You know, resources that people held communally. The GAA was a way to... Why are the values of the GAA so valuable? Why do we feel that it's different? Because it holds some values that seem to be absent in modernity. So, like, I basically went to America because I wanted to learn how to write rhetorically with scientific, rational inquiry about tradition, and to make a rhetorical point that people assess their own worldviews and maybe unsettle them a bit. You know, that's the goal of ethnography. You try and unsettle the foundations, the epistemologies of people, their ways of knowing. And ultimately, the way of knowing in traditional music, it's been marked as traditional because there's something a bit different about it. You know, now my focus isn't on traditional music in Carney. At the minute, it will be in the future, hopefully, but at the minute I'm studying the native form of history, which is Seanachas. How do people use it? What are the different genres of Seanachas, from proverbs to the different kinds of stories people tell, and towards what end? How do they inculcate worldview in young people? Now, this is a way of oppositionally creating a local identity based on values that are often oppositional to centralised authority. So it's non-alienated culture I'm interested in, and this would be an extension of that. Right, I'll play to two hornpipes. First one actually is from a recent recording that showed up of Thomas Garrigan, a piper originally of Mayo descent, and amazing piece of piping, Sean. Stop, unbelievable stuff. The steamboat, he called this hornpipe. It's really a version of the Harvest Home, I think. And then the second one is one I got from the playing of Jimmy O'Brien Moran, which I think is one of the classic piping albums. His album of Paddy Keneally's music. I think it's absolutely magic album, you know. Which this one is a version of the Garden of Daisies that came from Paddy Keneally, a 19th century piper.